So this video today is going to be a little bit different to the usual because today I'm going to give you a tour of my studio. Now, I've done plenty of videos where I've gone through my favorite plugins and my favorite software, but I suddenly realized I've never done a studio tour. I've done plenty of videos from this studio where I make all of my music, but I've never actually shown you around. How rude. So in today's video, what I thought I'd do is I'd take you on a quick tour and show you all the hardware that I use for my music production, for my live streams, for my videos, and for my DJing. So this is my tiny compact little studio in the box room of my house, and I pretty much got everything in here that I need to make beats. On this side of the room, I've got all my production gear, all my hardware that I use to produce music. Then I've also got my camera gear on the left hand side here. This is where I do all my YouTube videos and live streaming and stuff like that. And then I've also got all my DJ gear on the left hand side here. Now this is a really small room, so I've actually really had to scale back what equipment that I have within here, and everything's in here for a reason. And I always change it around. I'm always rewiring, trying new stuff out and seeing what works. And this is kind of the latest iteration of that basically. So let's start off on the music production hardware, and I think on the right hand side of my desk, because this is probably what you guys are going to want to know all about. And probably my favorite bit of kit within the whole studio is the Electron Analog Heat. Now, I have had this for many years, and honestly, I couldn't imagine making a production without it, because this saturation unit, I think, lends a lot to the Dirty Secret sounds. Basically, everything on the master channel goes out through the master channel and into this bit of kit. It's all warmed up with the analog circuitry that's within here, and then it goes back into that master channel again. Now, this does have an audio interface within here, but I've actually hooked it up via audio. So we got audio in and then audio out. So it's basically just going through the unit and then back into the master channel again. And this is what saturates all of my tracks. Now, the preset that I got within here is actually it's actually called Summer. And I think I came up with this 2019, maybe 2018 even, maybe. I'm not quite sure when I came up. Obviously something that was made within the summer, and I've been using it ever since. It's just one of those presets that kind of works for me. I very rarely kind of change it. Every now and again I will tweak it if I want a bit more kind of character from it, if I want a bit more rawness from it. Now, there's plenty of different circuits within here. I use the saturation one, which is actually kind of a very subtle one, but there's also some really more exaggerated saturation within here as well, which does have its purpose every now and again. But to be honest, I keep it on this preset most of the time and kind of tweak the parameters because it just works for my tracks and on the master channel. So yeah, I can't imagine making a track without this unit. Now, next up underneath it, we have the Pioneer Torres AS1. Now, this is a mono synth, and I just love the sound that comes out of this synth. It is so warm and lovely, and if you've seen any of my videos, you'll see, you know, how much I love this synth, and it works really well on bass lines. It's great for effects, and I've even got some of my own presets within here. So we can see there's some more presets that I've done recently. These will all be available very, very soon. And yeah, I just love this synth. This synth is so nice. It's actually being controlled via USB. I've got a USB lead out the back of here. So it's all controlled via USB MIDI. I don't actually use this little keyboard on the front, but it's actually kind of cool to jam stuff out every now and again. But generally, it's all controlled via Ableton. And I actually use the Sound Tower software to control all of the parameters, because even though you have some nice knobs here that can kind of control some of those parameters, so the low pass, the high pass, it's still, I find it better controlling it from the software because there's just so much more control from there. But still, the sound that comes out of this is just amazing. Now, next up is my main MIDI controller. This is the Pioneer Torres Squid, and I love this bit of kit just because it allows me to be so creative. Originally, I wasn't quite sure how this would actually fit within my workflow, as it's mainly used as an external controller for external equipment. So this would be the heart of a MIDI performance. So you'd probably plug something like the AS1 in and a whole load of other synths and drum machines and control it all from that. But it actually works really well as a USB controller as well, because every one of the channels can be mapped to a different USB MIDI channel, and it works really, really well. And I say it's all bus powered as well, so the USB, it just feeds it power as well, which makes it even better for my setup, my limited amount of power plugs that I have down the bottom. And yeah, I just love it as a MIDI controller. We've got all the different scales within here, chords, custom chords actually. We've got this harmonizer part down the bottom, which I absolutely love because it just gives you quick access to a whole load of different chords that you can get to very quickly. And also on the left hand side of the unit is all these different creative controls for coming up with different patterns and stuff. So you can sequence everything within here, and it can you can come up with some really interesting patterns. But quite often I actually just use it as a MIDI controller just to use it for the pads really. The pads are really nice and responsive, and I found it to be one of the best MIDI controllers I've actually used within the studio, which is why it's kind of my main MIDI controller within here. Now next up, let's talk about the microphone. So obviously when I'm doing a lot of my tutorials, a lot of my videos, I do use a proper microphone rather than using a shotgun microphone, which would be out of shot, or maybe a lapel microphone. I actually prefer just using a quality microphone like this. This is the Rode Pod Mic. It's actually a very reasonably priced microphone. I think it's a dynamic microphone. I'm not quite sure. I'm not totally up on microphones, but I read the reviews and I got this and I've been really impressed with it. It's great for my tutorials. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I think it's just a really nice microphone, and I've actually got the Rode arm as well, just kind of going over my desk. Just allows me to kind of move it in and out, and even though it's getting a little bit squeaky now, it still does the job really, really well. Now next up, moving on to a bit of kit which is in so many studios. This is the Mackie Big Knob. This is basically an oversized big volume controller, and it's just one of those bits of kit that is just used industry wide. It's like this industry standard for controlling different monitor sets and headphones and things like that. And yeah, it's one of those things I've had for years. This is the generation 1, I'm guessing. I know there's a new one that's out at the moment, but I've got no need to change this because this works so well still. I've got the monitor select here. I've only actually got one set of monitors, but I do actually use the other monitor set to control streaming and things like that. And also one of the things I love about this is that we have the headphone preamp, which is great for a set of headphones like I've got here. So I've got the Beyerdynamic, the DT880 Pro. Now these are fantastic headphones, but if you plug them straight into a laptop, they're going to be vastly underpowered. You're not going to hear very much at all. You'll be cranking up the volume to its maximum and you're still not going to hear what you want to. But the beautiful thing about the preamp within here, the headphone preamp, is that it just, yeah, it really pumps up that volume and you get a really good sound out of those headphones. So yeah, this Mackie Big Knob, I don't think I could be without. We've also then got obviously my peripherals underneath. We've got my mouse, a Logitech MX Master mouse. I think they've released a new one of these. I think this might be the generation 2. I don't know. It's okay. I mean, it's one of those things. I've also got a tiny little keyboard here, a tiny little Logitech keyboard. I mainly just kind of downgraded actually. I had a big Mac full-size keyboard. Didn't find that I really needed it, so I just wanted something that was really small, and this one actually I can swap between different computers. We've got 3 different computers you can have here, so that's kind of handy when I've got different computers in here, one controlling the music, obviously my music production one, then also my live streaming one. And then obviously, as I mentioned, I've got the headphones within here, the Beyerdynamics, which work really, really great. When I'm in those kind of late night sessions, it just sounds really good, gives me a good clear sound. As I say, it's one of those headphones that a lot of people will recommend just because, well, it's so damn great. Next up, I've got my Yamaha Reface CP. Now this is an electronic piano. It's kind of, it gives a kind of very Rhodesy kind of sound, but it's actually a really cheap keyboard. I think it's around about £250. That's about $300, isn't it? Something like that. And it's yeah, it's a really cheap keyboard, but it gives a nice kind of sound. And the reason I actually bought this was mainly because I wanted a kind of external Rhodes type keyboard, which was portable and I could move around quite easily, and I could actually link into the Pioneer SP16 and the DJS 1000 for live performances. But I found that I do actually use it quite a bit in the studio, so that's why it's on my desk. It's actually unplugged at the moment because I've just gone through a whole load of rewiring and yeah, I just haven't rewired it. So yeah, that's just sitting there. I do love that keyboard. Next up, I've got an iPad mounted here. Now this is just generally used for my live stream. So when I'm kind of checking the comments and stuff, they're usually on this iPad, just so I can kind of have it to the left of my screen and then I can always see them. Then onto my monitors, I have the KRK Rocket 6s. These are the white Generation 2, I think it's the Generation 2 of the KRKs. No, it's not Generation 1. I had the Generation 1 in black, and then I upgraded to the Generation 2 in white, just generally because I like the way it looked in this room. It just looks really nice. These are just, yeah, and I always love KRKs. People like to bash the KRKs because they're not flat and they are a bit bassy, but I truly think that you can mix with any kind of speakers, as long as you kind of get used to them and you kind of use plenty of reference tracks, you can get what you want out of them. And I've always used KRKs. I don't think I can imagine using any other kind of monitors because I'm just used to the sound that I get out of them. So that's why I kind of use them. Now, obviously the main part of this desk is this huge ultra wide screen, and I'm not even sure what model this is. It's an LG ultra wide screen. Yeah, I can't remember what model it is. It's a really big one. So I can't really tell you what model it is. The only thing I kind of wish I hadn't have done with this is the fact that this is a truly flat ultra wide, which kind of looks cool on the videos, but when you're actually using it, I really wish it was curved, because when you're sitting here in front of it, you really have to kind of glance left and right, and you get this kind of, yeah, it's this kind of weird angle on it, and you really have to kind of almost move yourself over to the left to see something sometimes. That's why I kind of wish this was a curved screen, but you never know, I might upgrade at some point, who knows. So that's all my music production gear on my desk. You'll probably notice though that I don't actually have my audio interface, my sound card. That's actually mounted underneath the desk. So this is my Fireface 400. As I say, it's mounted underneath my desk just to get it out of the way. And I want to say it's got 16 ins and 16 outs. I think that's the case. I don't know. I'll put it in the description of this video. But yeah, this is my main audio interface, and it's actually really handy having all of those ins and outs, especially when you start using different instruments, external gear, especially when I'm using that analog heat on the master channel. As I say, it goes out through the back and back in again through the back. And that is my sound card. It's actually an older version. It's an older sound card, but it actually works really, really well still. So that's why I haven't changed it out. So that's all my music production gear, but I thought I'd also show you my video production gear as well, because obviously you're watching me on my YouTube channel or you're watching my live streams. This is what's going on behind the scenes. Now, I actually have two cameras within here. I've got my secondary camera, which is my Sony A6000 with just a standard Sony lens on. And then the actual camera that I'm filming with at the moment, which is my primary camera. This is my Sony A6300, and this has got a 16mm Sigma lens on. This is what gives me that kind of lovely kind of look. Now I've also got an output monitor here, which you can kind of see, just allows me to kind of frame my shot and make sure it looks nice. And also when I'm doing the live streams, I can see everything that's going on with all my multiple different cameras and everything else like that. Now you're probably wondering actually what's running all of this. This is the A10 Mini by Blackmagic, and this is what I do all of my live streams from. So this allows me to have multiple different cameras. I can stream directly from it. I can do picture in picture and all those kind of different things that allows me to put together these live streams. So whenever you see me doing a live stream on YouTube or Twitch or anything else like that, this is the bit of kit that I'm using, the A10 Mini. It's an amazing little bit of kit. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And yeah, that's kind of what drives everything within my studio here. Now I also have this big light going on here, which actually is just a kind of diffusion kind of sheet. I've got a really simple LED just going on behind there, which gives me all the kind of light. And this kind of diffusion thing just gives me that kind of softer light, makes it look a little bit nicer. And then usually when I'm kind of doing these kind of studio sessions, I have that secondary camera here actually going along the ceiling. So it kind of it goes along on a bar. I put a temporary bar up here and it gives me that top down shot so you can kind of see all of my different gear that I have on my desk whenever I'm using a MIDI controller or anything else like that. So yeah, that's kind of my live streaming setup. It's a very kind of simple setup, and it all kind of fits within this room. And I've got this big bar here. You can see this bar that everything is mounted to. That is just like a monitor pole. So the same monitor pole that I have here that's holding my monitor up here, this is just a longer pole that I kind of have everything attached to. Just makes it easy to be able to mount stuff whenever I want to put another light on there or a camera on there or anything else like that. Everything goes through here. You can see all these wires. This is usually cable managed quite well, but I just did a stream the other day and everything is kind of just unrigged a little bit. So there are a few wires kind of hanging around, but that's what happens off camera. So that's my video production and live streaming kind of rig. This is what's all going on behind the camera. Next up, let's talk about DJ gear. Now, obviously I have the DJ A6000 within here, Pioneer sampler, which I use within my DJ sets, and obviously a load of videos on my channel. I love this bit of kit and it's always plugged in, ready to go. Now this is where I record all of my guest mixes, and I am limited on space, so that's why I went for the XDJ RX2. Now this is Pioneer's standalone 2-channel unit, and it just works really well for me. It fits in this space nicely, it allows me to record my guest mixes. And now I do say it is a 2-channel setup, so obviously I am using 2 channels on there, but it actually has an auxiliary input within here, which I actually run the DJ A6000 through. Now it's not ideal, but that's just the way I've got it set up at the moment. But I do have the XZ on order, which I'm waiting to come in because unfortunately all DJ gear seems to be quite limited at the moment and shipping just seems to be taking forever. So that is going to replace this unit at some point, but for now this is what I'm kind of using to record all of my guest mixes and do all my basic DJing and live streaming from the studio. So there you go, there's a little tour of my compact little home studio and all the equipment that I use for my music production, for my videos, for my live streams, for my DJing. I've crammed a lot in this room, but I've been very selective about the equipment that I've got within here. For the most part, everything within here has been in here for a good few years. It's tried and tested and it works really well for me. But every now and again, I will kind of put some new equipment in there. For example, the Pioneer Squid, that's kind of new to me. I got that about a year ago and that's become my main MIDI controller now. But the Analog Heat, for example, that's been in my studio for many years. And even though they've released a Mark II of that now, that one still works really well for me, so that's why I haven't upgraded. So this studio is really kind of a mishmash of different things that I've kind of tried out, things that I found work for me, and even though it's kind of compact and there's not that much in here really, it works for me. This is where I produced all of my originals, all of my remixes, and as you can see, this studio setup just works for me. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to get across in this video. It might be small, it might be a compact studio, but it just works. So I hope this video has been useful to you. I'm going to put links in the description to all of this different hardware. If you want to check it out, see if it works for you, then yeah, by all means hit up those links. And if I've missed anything out, if I've glossed over something, or you want to know something about something within my studio, then drop a comment below the video and I'll answer it as soon as I can do. So yeah, hope this video has been useful to you. I've got loads more content like this on my channel. I've gone into various different bits of kit that I've got in my studio in full videos, so definitely check out them on my channel. There's videos on the DJ A6000, there's videos on the Squid, there's loads more stuff on there. So definitely check out the rest of my channel, get subscribed, hit that notification bell, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next video.